On today's ranking, we're celebrating WandaVision, Marvel Studios' first show on Disney+.
What better way to celebrate than ranking our top 10 MCU heroes?
Thwip, thwippy thwip, thwip.
Roll that intro.
Please no gang signs. What's up, y'all? We're the Cinefanatics. My name is Chris.
And I'm Robert.
And it's a big one today. It's a big one. What are we doing?
We're covering the top 10 MCU heroes, like we said at the opening of this.
Right, and before we get started, we have a little bit of housekeeping to keep track of here. You might notice that there's two of us, and so these top 10 lists are typically a compromise of our opinions so that we can give you one whole list to talk about here. It's usually how we do it, understanding that we each have our own individualistic opinions, our own individualistic lists, which you can find those. Where can they find them?
We can find them over there on the Avengers tier on our Patreon. All the bonus content. There's way too much to talk about here in just this one video with just these 10 heroes. There's more content over on Patreon on the Avengers tier.
Power punch that Avengers tier over on Patreon. Continue the discussion over on our Discord. And stay tuned for next week's by subscribing and ringing that bell because we're doing the MCU villains next week.
Yeah, so again, this is our opinions. Do you have your opinion? Let us know down in the chat. Let's continue talking about it down there below this video. But as for right now, let's get into this one.
Coming in at number 10, it's the Hulk, the gentle green giant. Gentle.
Yeah, the Hulk's a huge figure, both in film and in the books, and he's a huge presence in these movies as well. I know it kind of like started off like a little shaky with 2008's The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton, but ever since Mark Ruffalo's taken over, the character has grown a whole lot, again, both physically and in story-wise.
And in CGI.
Exactly. I like what they've done with this character so far, and I would be eager to see more of the Hulk should he get like another solo movie. Typically, I'm not a huge fan of the Hulk generally, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the Hulk and why he's so low on our list specifically. They've done a lot of great development with him as a character throughout the whole MCU, but it's the fact that they haven't been able to go back to another movie of him and give him his own like arc within it. One singular film. They've had to spread it out across multiple films, multiple Avengers, Thor, all that kind of stuff. And while I like kind of the direction where they went, and I was really hoping they'd get to a place where Hulk was able to both smash and speak eloquently, you just haven't seen that throughout his own films. Still a great character. Mm-hmm. Huge presence, always. Green presence, whatever that means. He's the Professor Hulk. I mean, if it came down to him really for any of the events in Endgame, so he's a top tier hero. He really is. He's got to be on the top 10 list.
Absolutely. Coming in at number 9, it's SpiderMan, everyone's favorite web-slinging superhero. I really love Spider-Man. He has been one of my favorite superheroes ever since I was a kid because, well, might be a big surprise, I was a gigantic dork, much like Peter Parker was as a kid. I don't feel like they've really played up that much in the movies, though. And again, we're kind of picking out the MCU here, in which Peter Parker in the MCU really hasn't gone through like that whole like outcast of grade school, of high school, like Flash is picking on him here and there, but really not that much in the way of bullying. He does seem like a pretty natural, normal kid, and I like what they're doing with him in this. They are kind of like avoiding the whole origin with like Uncle Ben and all that. They took it in a nice new direction where he fits nicely within the MCU.
They are avoiding that origin because we've seen it 1,000 times now, but they're taking him back to the teenager. That's how Spider-Man started out. He started out as a kid having to deal with school, having to deal with being a superhero. And I love that. The problem is that, and why we don't have Spider-Man of all heroes even higher on this list. I mean, he's such an iconic hero. But the problem is that he's still kind of playing as a Tony Stark Iron Man protege. He hasn't quite come into his own yet as a superhero. And that's kind of what we're looking forward to. Hopefully the next movie, we'll see, he'll be able to take on more on his own. The thing of it is, though, is it's Spider-Man. You've got to include Spider-Man on the list also. He's been around forever. You got into him back in the 60s when you were a child, and that's why you can't discount him.
That wasn't right.
You're old. Number 8 is Rocket Raccoon.
He's not a raccoon. He's a digitally enhanced
Trash panda.
Yeah, exactly. He's one of these characters going into Guardians of the Galaxy that, like, on paper, like literally on paper, he is ridiculous. It is a walking, talking creature that looks a lot like the Earth creatures that we refer to as raccoons. Like, this isn't gonna work. This is where you lose the viewers of the MCU. You got a walking tree with his pal Groot and a walking raccoon with Rocket. No one's gonna believe this. But the story arc that they have put Rocket, out of almost everyone from the Guardians of the Galaxy, the story arc with Rocket is insane, and it makes fantastic sense. And I love what they've done with him. He's gone from one end of the spectrum of personality way over to the other, and it's great. I love it.
It's one of the reasons why I was eagerly anticipating Guardians of the Galaxy. Once again, prior not really knowing that much about Guardians of the Galaxy before the movie. But just knowing that there's this character that is a talking raccoon that wields a bunch of guns and has this boisterous personality, and seeing it translate to screen. And then on top of that, they gave Rocket such a great arc, such a great storyline where he's coming from the fact that he's been experimented on over and over again. He's very hardened and cynical, and he's got to overcome his, forgive my French, a-hole nature, and become somebody who is actually like one of the team, can work with the team. And I think that's one of the best aspects of the Guardians of the Galaxy, is because he kind of represents the entire team in and of himself, just kind of by himself. It's great. It's fantastic for a little trash panda.
Absolutely. Plus, he has an affinity for bionic body parts. Coming up next, number 7 is Nebula.
Now, we get it. We understand. She didn't start out as a hero, and that's why she's on this list, to be honest. She's had one of the best story arcs in the MCU, I think. First of all, her daddy is Thanos, and he mistreats her like crazy, kind of tearing her apart, building her, rebuilding her, and all of that. And so she's had a whole lot to kind of overcome in her character arc, and that includes just being sisters with Gamora, finding that sisterly love, not like brotherly love, but finding that kind of inner hero for herself and figuring out what is her place in the universe, kind of. It's kind of hard to do when your daddy's wanting to snap... That was terrible. Snap half of life out of the entire universe.
What was that again? Oh, I just wanted to make sure you could actually do it. Nebula is, again, yeah, typically she is a villain. Like in the comics, she was primarily a villain, at least through most of the 90s when I was reading like the Silver Surfer comics and stuff. She does have a big arc in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline from the comics. And so I kind of like her, especially during the movies that deal with the Infinity Gauntlet, War and Endgame.
Yeah.
That her involvement on there is really where you see her pivot into becoming a hero. And I love, like, everything that has to deal with her being a hero in these movies. I love her playing the football with Tony Stark at the beginning of Infinity War, to when they land on Earth and she's sitting there on the steps and she's holding hands with Rocket. Like that kind of stuff I love. It's great to see her character, kind of like with Rocket, kind of go through this arc, and it's a massive, the big arc I was talking about with Rocket, it's even bigger with Nebula, and I love to see that from her in these movies.
Yeah, and they had to, they also worked her in as she's kind of the reason why the events of Endgame even took place, why 2014 Thanos even fast forwarded to the future, because of the interconnection between 2014 Nebula and present day Nebula.
So again, making her very pivotal in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, both in the comics and in the movie.
Coming in at number 6 is Black Widow. Everyone's favorite ex-Russian spy. I guess she's still technically Russian, but she didn't have the accent for most of the movies.
Black Widow is a fantastic character, and I love what Scarlett Johansson's been doing with her in these movies. Kind of another one, like starting off with Iron Man 2 as just someone who's like being essentially infiltrated into Tony Stark's life by S.H.I.E.L.D. and then turns out to be this like deadly assassin that beats the crap out of everyone while Happy is still facing down the one lone security guard. Just that was a great scene.
Yeah, the great thing about Black Widow and why you've got to put her on the list is she literally sacrificed her life in Endgame. Spoilers, you've already seen it, come on. She literally sacrificed her life for the greater cause in Endgame. Not only the greater cause, but so that Hawkeye could go back to his family. One of the great things about Black Widow is the emotional depth that she actually has as a character. I mean, let's fast forward to Endgame. We talk about her sacrificing herself, but just the fact that she's sitting at home base, just sitting there with her peanut butter sandwich, and she's crying because she feels like there's so much more that they should have done as a team, as heroes, and they just couldn't accomplish it. Black Widow, I feel like, to some degree, along with Hawkeye, has always been the audience eyes into the superhero world. Who she is as a character really adds some depth to this world filled with magical creatures and suits of armor and scientific experiments that have so much power. It was just a really great character to add into the mix.
I definitely think like she's got this quality about her, like you're saying, the eyes into it, but she's got like this mother type quality to at least to the rest of the Avengers. She's been very pivotal on getting a lot of the storylines and the emotions of these movies on screen. Look back at Avengers. She was the one that she sacrificed essentially a part of her actual personal story to Loki to get the information from Loki that he wants to use the Hulk to overthrow the Avengers and whatnot. She actually told like something very personal about herself to someone who's a master manipulator with potential information. Look at how she's done like go to Winter Soldier, where at the end she basically just told off an entire government committee and then walked her happy butt out of there and said, and almost like literally gave him a middle finger walking out of that Senate hearing committee thing.
Yeah.
She's been like this throughout the whole thing. She pushes forward the story and doesn't take any crap from anyone while she's doing it. She sacrifices herself both physically and emotionally on every opportunity she gets. Fine character in this MCU and definitely deserves to be on this list.
And she can kick the crap out of me any day.
Yeah, well, good luck getting her away from Colin Jost. Number 5, it's Scarlet Witch.
From one Scarlet to the next. Ha, get it? Get it?
Good one.
It's funny, because we're talking about Scarlet Witch here, which is Wanda Maximoff. Came in at end credit sequence for Winter Soldier. Came in during Age of Ultron with her brother Pietro Quicksilver. Such a sad story already from the top because Quicksilver died in that movie. So you're already starting your character off.
What did you say just now?
You're already starting your character off on a sad note with having to deal with a sibling death. But on top of that, she is somebody who is her past with the whole like Tony Stark killed my parents inadvertently, and the whole been experimented on by Hydra. It's just so much there already building onto a character of such a powerful, strong character within the comic books, and seeing that kind of power and strength translated to the screen. You can't discount Wanda. Wanda is such an incredible character all the way around. And as far as a hero, I mean, let's even dive into the beginning of Civil War, kind of the catalyst for everything that happened.
Yeah, she's gone through gigantic amounts of emotional stuff. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Emotional stuff really is. It's just, it's insane what they've blasted at her psionically or whatever. Anyways, so much is weighing on this one person, and that she's still becoming more and more this awesome superhero throughout the MCU. I'm eager to see what they're going to do next with her, particularly because they're giving her own TV show. I say given to her, I mean, at this point, we're already a couple episodes in, and they're doing a fantastic job of that so far. And I love this expansion on her, because as of right now, again, as of we're recording this, we've seen a couple episodes, and it's really seeming like it's diving into her psyche, again, given everything that she's gone through. So it's really amazing to see that kind of growth in this character, and I'm all for the fact that they've got a TV show about her now.
100%. Now, real quick, are you agreeing with our list so far? Again, this is our opinion. You might have a different opinion. Why don't you type it down in the comments below? Let us know what you're thinking. And since we're on the topic of Wanda, I mean, we were just talking about the TV show, you got to come back Friday nights. We are doing a live kind of Easter egg breakdown of each episode of WandaVision as they're airing right now. You want to come back? We're usually doing that about 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. Come back. It's a live stream. You can tell us your theories.
Did you catch something that possibly we didn't catch? Let us know in the chat. Let's discuss it because I want to hear more and talk about more. It's a lot of fun. It's great interaction. Come on back Friday nights for that. Anyways, let's continue with the list.
And number 4 is Black Panther.
The King of Wakanda.
I'm wearing purple just for him.
Aw, that's so nice. Black Panther was another character that was pretty much presented as like a B-list character when he first appeared in Fantastic Four 52. And because of the MCU and the growth that they're doing with it, this character has gone like straight to the forefront. Captain America Civil War and his storyline arc within that movie. I mean, it started off with him and his father, and then by the end of the movie, the emotions that he had with Zemo talking about family and the lust for revenge. I mean, that is a massive amount of character storyline to go through just in the course of one movie. And that was one movie that wasn't even about him. It was Captain America's movie, essentially, or Avengers like 2.5, whatever you want to call it.
It was Captain America's movie. But see, here's the thing, though. We're talking about Black Panther, and this guy is a character that there's such like history rooted into that character. Not only just for him specifically as the hero, but like his whole family line, what it means to take on the role of the Black Panther. I mean, the dude is the king of his own country. And not only that, but that's a country that has to stay hidden from the rest of the world because vibranium is such a valuable commodity, so to speak. So the fact that he is somebody who is able to be that ruler of the country, but also take on the mantle of a hero, that speaks to the depth and the level, in which case he's got to take on that heroic, mantle, that heroic stance. It's just so exciting, the type of character that he is. You got to include Black Panther. I mean, this is a character that has such massive depth to him. The thing is, I'm like super excited for the next Black Panther movie, but obviously, like, you can't include him on the list without talking about how sad it is. Our hearts have been with the entire Boseman family that he doesn't get to, reprise the role, that we don't get to see that one more take from him in that role. He is going to be in What If. I know that he's voicing T'Challa in What If, so that's going to be something to look forward to as well. But man, I am just excited to see what further developments they take the character in now.
Yeah. At number 3, it's Thor!
The Odin's son!
Yeah, I love Thor. This is so Norse religion, Norse mythology, whatever you want to call it. That's actually something I was kind of interested in before even reading about the comics. Like, I was actually...
Nerd.
Yeah, I know, it happens. I was actually interested in this, and I love the way that the MCU, or Marvel Comics even to begin with, has incorporated a lot of that Norse mythology into its own storyline.
Yeah.
Now, you go and you do something like Thor, the Thor movies that came out through the MCU. I thought Thor was one of those characters, it's going to be really hard to translate him on the big screen. And they did it perfectly. They've done a fantastic job in making him basically this demigod, and then turning around and making him a little more relatable, like
giving him a human element.
Yeah, he, like, as the movies have gone on, he's become more silly, basically. Yeah. I mean, when Taika Waititi took over, it got all completely silly. And that's one of the things I liked, is because if you're a demigod, you might not normally be as goofy as that. But Thor has made that personal connection with us just because he's spending more time on Earth. He's around the Avengers.
That's the thing. I love the arc that they've taken him as a character. He goes in, first movie, confident, cocky as all get out, and then having to be humbled and learn a lesson, being thrusted down to Earth and having to live amongst the peons, the humans. You see where he's come from there. Now, here's the thing. The character has, like, get to Thor Ragnarok, he's kind of regained some of that cockiness, which that is it comes with the character of Thor. I mean, he's super powerful. He's got lightning, all that stuff. But it's the fact that he's always maintained a level of humility. You see how hard he takes it when he didn't go for the head in Infinity War, and what that does to him as a character, as a person. It made Thor probably one of the most relatable characters in all of the MCU when you're talking about just the depression that he felt from that moment. So, I mean, you put Thor on the list. He's got to be number 3. He's just a fantastic all-around character. And you've got to say something about those bleached eyebrows in the first Thor movie.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
Shiny. Number 2 is Captain America. When Captain America throws his mighty shield. Anyway, this is Captain America. Okay, I understand. You guys might be able to figure out our top 3 here. It makes perfect sense. Don't leave just yet. We actually have some great stuff to say about number 1. But Captain America is one of those characters that... we talk about relatable with Thor. Who's more relatable than scrawny Steve Rogers undergoing maybe not the science experiment part, but scrawny Steve Rogers having that heart of gold. He wants to fight. He wants to do the right thing, but... dude's got like a myriad of health issues that kind of keep him from being able to do some of this stuff. Then you see him kind of undergo that experiment, take on that hero. The thing is that he's always had that hero heart. Mm-hmm. And that's why you've got to put him so high up on this list. I mean, it's Captain freaking America. He can do this all day. And then he's able to do it all day because he's given the muscles and the extra human... How do you stamina, all that stuff to be able to take on Hitler and Red Skull and the whole World War whatever... all that stuff.
That is America's ass.
The thing I connect to is exactly like how they translated him from the comics, which his is almost a 100% direct translation from the comics.
Yeah.
And that's what I like, because, I mean, again, growing up reading these comic books, I read about him coming back, like, way back in the 60s when they actually did bring him back in Avengers. Mm-hmm. The thing I like about it now is they brought him back to nowadays. He came back to a world full of, like, iPods and MySpace and... wait, no.
That was before he came back still.
Yeah, okay, so he came back to a world of
Facebook
and Twitter and
iPhones
and like all of the stuff that we currently have now that we don't think about. He's now having to learn all of this stuff and still being able to maintain exactly who he is in this wild, crazy world.
Yeah.
I like that. That's where I connect to it.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about Captain America is they just did a fantastic job on that man out of time element. Mm-hmm. Because you really, like, at the end of his first movie, he's standing there in the middle of Times Square, and that heartbreaking line, I had a date, I had a dance, just, oh my gosh, it tears at you because you know that's where the emotion for Captain America comes in, is his connection with Peggy. And the fact that they were able to bring him full arc back in Endgame, I love that movie ended with his dancing with Peggy in their house.
Yeah.
I think that's just a fantastic thing, especially because, like, you talk about the character arc there. He did all that time fighting as a hero with the Avengers. He was actually able to earn the life that he originally wanted back because of all that time he spent in and putting that time in. Man.
And with such a good conclusion to him as a character, and it ended his character story arc perfectly. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I'm glad that they wrapped that up and there's nothing else to be done with him. Maybe. At number 1, it is Iron Man.
I can't do it.
You sound like Bane. Iron Man. Anyways, this is so stupid. Yeah, of course, Iron Man's number 1. He is the main focal point of the entire MCU. It started with him, and the MCU thus far has ended with him.
Yeah.
Like, the entire MCU as we know it all through Endgame is his entire story arc. Everything comes full circle surrounding him in some way or another. You look at the end of the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, he was in that bar walking in. It's like a natural space for Tony Stark to be in too, even though they really didn't touch on that too much in the movies. Talk about like the Demon in the Bottle storyline and everything from the comics. They did find an interesting way, though, to incorporate that level of personality within Tony Stark. You see him with like a glass of something every now and then, but for the most part, his addictive personality is more so his drive to kind of get away from the weapons, to be the hero that does the right thing, to build that suit of armor across the world that leads to Ultron. Just, you see so many different aspects of what Tony Stark was in the comics kind of portrayed on screen, that obviously the cocksure personality, the snarkiness, it's what we love, and it's why we adore that Robert Downey Jr. is the one in the role, because he is Tony Stark. And vice versa, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, even if you look at, I mean, real quick, we could quickly mention, look at Robert Downey Jr.'s history in Hollywood. I mean, that right there is pretty much his entire life has been him doing a...
it's leading up to taking on the role.
It's an audition for Tony Stark.
I am Iron Man.
And he's been nailing it ever since. And I love that this is not only great for how he reaches within himself to portray Tony Stark, but for just Tony Stark's ability to be on screen. It's perfect.
Yeah, and you even go so far as we go forwards to Endgame, where he's already got his family. He's accepted the fact that what happened with Thanos happened with Thanos. They lost. That's it. He's got his family. He's got his wife. He's got his kid. That's it. That's it for him. But then there's just that thing that's nagging him on the inside. And Pepper even said it, like, I would never be able to pull you away from it. You'll never find rest unless you do this. Up to the point where when on that battlefield, he had one option left. And he wasn't ready to give up all that stuff before. But in that battle, he knew what he had to do. And snapping everyone, all the bad guys, all Thanos and his army away. And it's just such... Look, we said it. Tony Stark is the MCU, right? Mm-hmm. That emotional element with Tony at the end snapping and essentially willing to give up his life, that doesn't mean anything if you don't have 10 plus years of MCU, 10 plus years of him as Iron Man building upon it. And that's why you've got to put Iron Man at number one. The fact of the matter is Iron Man is the MCU. The way they are, they don't exist without each other.
Well, we're about to find out. Because...
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Even so, you got Spider-Man Far From Home, and there was so much of Tony still present within that movie. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like all right, we're gonna have to move on, but slowly move on. And that's the thing. You don't have the emotional impact of the MCU without Tony Stark and what he meant to the MCU. He's gotta be number one.
Yeah, I mean, this was a no-brainer on our part.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Did you agree with our list? Did it look anything like your list? We want to know. Let us know in the comments below. What was your list? What did you like about what we brought up? Do you agree with any of it? And then on top of that, you can jump over on our Patreon. Like I said earlier, we've got some bonus content here that's going to play right after we're done with this. You're going to want to head over there. This one, we would normally probably have some individualistic lists between us, but actually on this one, we kind of just straight up agreed on all of these. So we do want to kind of cover some other characters who probably should have been on this list. You know, if we were able to go for more than 10, a lot of extra bonus content. Jump over there on the Avengers tier on the Patreon and see all of that. And before you leave, make sure you're following us on all the social medias. Instagram, Twitter, at Cinefanatics MLP. You can find me specifically at Chris Adams MLP.
I'm at Robert Adams MLP.
Duh. And you can jump on there on the different social medias, kind of follow everything that we're doing, and be up to date on all the stuff that's happening.
Also, guys, make sure you like this video and also subscribe to us. You can subscribe to us right there. Also, over here off to the side are a couple other videos that we have made. And as always, I'm actually kind of wanting to go do some of that experimentation with Hydra. It sounds really good. So, see ya.
Villains next week.